MotorWeek is made possible by Rock Auto, Tire Rack, and Die Hard.
We have a car that'll do the same thing. It's the Alfa Romeo GTV-6. Now, Alfa Romeo has always sold cars that were a little bit different. Alfa's has suited a select few, maybe too few. They only sold 3,700 cars here last year. But the company's got big plans for the U.S. market. For openers, it's updated a few familiar models, including the GTV-6. After 12 years of production, the GTV still proves in some ways that different can be better, starting with its lines. They were so handsome in the beginning that they've refused to age. Over the years, there have been a few outside changes, a spoiler here, some matte black paint there, just to keep up with the trends. And for 1986, the GTV gets new wheels and tires, but more about them later. The engine's been updated too since our 1982 test of the Alfa, but not in the typical 80s GT fashion. For a change, they haven't stuck on a turbocharger, just plain old revised fuel injection for the overhead cam 2.5-liter V6. It makes 154 horsepower now at 5,500 RPM and 152 pound-feet of torque. But numbers alone don't begin to do the Alfa engine justice. They don't tell you how evenly this normally aspirated engine pulls to its 6,500 RPM red line, or how well it responds to the throttle. Very evenly, very quickly. The quarter mile went by in 16.5 seconds at an 82 mile/hour terminal speed. Shorter sprints were just as lively. A 0 to 60 run took just 9.8 seconds. Our only complaints? Too much rear-end squat when the power was applied. And passing time is only average, 5 seconds from 40 to 55, the result of a tallish high-speed third gear. The brakes are more than up to the speed that the Alfa can generate. With ventilated disc up front and inboard mounted disc at the rear, stops were short and consistent. From 55 miles/hour, they averaged 112 feet with no fade, but the pedal worked best with a heavy foot. Positive response seems to be the GTV's trademark. The steering is unhindered by power assist. Sure, it's a little heavy, but it always lets you know exactly what the front tires are doing. Positive steering is almost a necessity since the GTV-6 reacts to a turn with mild plow, followed by some lightness in the rear end as the body rolls to the suspension stops. Ditto the reaction to our 55 mile/hour lane change. Front end plow followed by tail twitch with more emphasis on the latter. Nothing dangerous, mind you, but a quick charge in the Alfa is best left to experienced hands. Overall cornering traction is fairly high, thanks in part to the stickier Pirelli P6 tires that Alfa switched to for 86, and thanks to another Alfa difference. Unlike any car in its class, the GTV-6 has a Porsche-like transaxle at the rear, giving it near 50-50 weight distribution. Of course, that also means the gear linkage runs to the back of the car, which usually makes for a vague shift lever. But Alfa redesigned the linkage last year. Now the lever is like a good front drive shifter. And that brings us to the interior. Our car had the optional leather upholstery, and all seats offer very good side and back support. But the luxury of it all will be lost on backseat passengers who'll have a lot of trouble getting in and out, to say nothing of sitting still for even short trips. The driver will also have a rough time of it. Though the steering wheel is adjustable, most of us are still left with the famous and uncomfortable straight-arm, bent-leg Italian driving position. And adding insult to injury, the windows don't go all the way down. The dash is more a collection of parts than a comprehensive control center. Markings for the heat and air conditioning are confusing, and you have to open dash vents by hand. But all the right gauges are there, even though you have to look away from the road to see them. The main gauges are easier to see, and the tack for one is right in front of the driver. Even if you could get someone to sit in the back seat, long trips in the Alfa are still only for two. You need the rear seat for the luggage that can't be squeezed into the trunk. Yet in other ways, the Alfa is well suited to a cross-country trek. On the interstate, it holds true to all the traditional GT, Gran Turismo, virtues. The ride is comfortable, if a little firm, and the car has an almost gyroscopic stability. The faster it goes, the surer it feels. And a 72 dB sound level, about average at 55, isn't too much of a deterrent for steady cruising. And neither is the Alfa's fuel mileage. The EPA estimates the GTV-6 at 19 city and 26 highway, and our test confirms that range. So at $16,500 a copy, the Alfa GTV-6 is a car that's much more than the sum of its parts. It has near-timeless styling, velvet power, handling capabilities to please any enthusiast, and road-gripping brakes. Unfortunately, it still hangs on to a mishmash of creature discomfort features. There's that unnatural driving position. The back seat's a joke, and there's limited luggage space. But the Alfa Romeo GTV-6 does please the senses. It's special mostly because it's such a nonconformist. Its popularity will probably still be limited to a few, but they may be among the most fortunate.